Today is day 6 of the Linux Certification Virtual Summit. And to kick off the Red Hat Certified System Administrative exam, I have Tyrone, Terrance McKinney, who is a seasoned Linux infrastructure technologist with over 20 plus years of experience in Linux architecture, Linux engineering, and Linux administration. Tyrone, thank you so much for being here with us today at the summit. How are you?
I'm doing great there. You're quite welcome.
Perfect, perfect. So let's just get right into it. Tell me who Tyrone Terrance McKinney is.
I'm a seasoned technology veteran. I've been working with Unix, Solaris, and Linux, I guess, since the mid 1980s. Started off at Bell Labs, then transitioned to Wall Street, and pretty much beyond there. I'm heavily involved in the community. I'm involved in several nonprofits. That pretty much act as a vehicle for me to act as a technology evangelist. I have a number of meetup groups, Black technology professionals, minority technology careers. I'm president of Black Data Processing Association, and additionally, I'm a board member of 100 Black Men Incorporated, and also technology chair and one of the founding members of Eagle Academy. And I have a love for technology and love, pretty much just spreading that information, disseminating that information out, into the communities and getting a variety of people, involved in technology as a career.
Perfect, perfect. That's wonderful. I love your giving back to the community and through technology. So, how did you get introduced into the world of Linux in particular?
All right, so initially, Unix. I guess we'll go back to
Okay.
Unix. I will start off with Unix. So when I was St. John's, I was going to be a medic, and then I ran into a consultant in I guess the mid 1980s. He was working as a Unix consultant. And he was making about maybe $400 or $500 a day back then. And then I suddenly, that was like a moment of change. So I thought about it. I changed my major from medicine. I changed to technology, computer science. I was fortunate enough to start working in Bell Labs. I actually invented Unix. So I started working with Unix, initially Solaris. And I guess in the late 1980s, early 1990s, started taking a look at Linux, when it first came about. And then once it became more commercially viable for a lot of companies, started going for the certifications and started working for more in depth. So I guess I've been working with Unix probably about 25, 26 years, so Linux 13 or 14 years.
Wow, that's really impressive. Very impressive. So, what made you decide to become a Red Hat certified system administrator?
Well, Red Hat in the Linux space, Red Hat is the most mature provider, of Linux. The majority of the enterprises that I've worked with pretty much are based their infrastructure on the Red Hat Enterprise Linux. So and Red Hat, there are various certifications also carry a lot of weight, a lot of value with them, unlike a paper CNA certifications, other certifications. They have a lot of value, they have a lot of clout. So that's why I became a Red Hat Certified Systems Administrator. Red Hat
Perfect.
is widely suspected, widely respected, and their certification is highly sought after in terms of individuals who are seeking jobs.
Yes, I agree, and I tell anyone that's willing to listen to me that Red Hat is king. Red Hat servers are in everything within technology world. The servers that big companies use is Red Hat based. So I try to encourage folks to learn Red Hat because once you learn Red Hat, it truly helps you in your career environment. I kind of want to segue into something that you kind of mentioned in regards to Red Hat.
Sure.
And I want to ask you, how has being Red Hat certified impact your life? Because, we both agree that Red Hat is king. So can you just explain a little bit how being Red Hat certified did impact your life?
Sure. I mean, most of my career has been in the consulting industry, consulting on Wall Street at a variety of companies, everywhere, J.P. Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Citigroup, etc. Having that Red Hat certification has allowed me, to work with these companies. I've been at J.P. Morgan 3 times, Merrill Lynch, etc. I still get 10, 15, 20 calls every day, from people around the country, and that's a result, of my experience, and additionally having that Red Hat certification. So it's a heavy skill set, heavily in demand, 6-figure salaries, still being used heavily, global leader, etc.
Appreciate it, appreciate it.
No
And
problem.
just to segue to another question, so you did say that that you get at least 10 calls a day. Are those recruiters who are calling you for your skills, or companies?
But both actually. I get calls from companies looking for a Linux infrastructure person, infrastructure architect, infrastructure engineer, administrator, and then I get called from lots and lots of recruiters.
Perfect, perfect. I love it. I really love the fact that you're just putting it out there and telling folks this is what happened when you become Red Hat certified. It's great. So, how did you prepare for your Red Hat certified system admin exam?
Okay, the way that I've been playing around with Red Hat for many years, and then after playing around for maybe 2 to 3 years, there was a course that was offered by Red Hat as a rapid track test and course that they have. It was called the RH300. It might go by another name, but it's a 5-day course, pretty much 4 days of intensive study, and the fifth day you take the exam. So that's the track that I took at that time.
Perfect, perfect. What kind of study habits did you develop to help you prepare, or were you, since I know you've had so much experience with Unix and Linux in general, like what did you notice you changed any of your study habits, or you kept the same study habits you had? If so,
Actually,
what were?
they actually changed. I mean, so initially, I guess it was reading a lot of manuals, etc. Going to a lot of manuals, setting up physical or virtual labs, and I guess it's changed in the sense that these days there are a lot more things available. In terms of becoming certified. Whether it's going to YouTube and there being a variety of seminars there and how to prep for and what's going to be covered. A variety of organizations outside of Red Hat offer training as well. LinuxAcademy.com is one that I highly recommend, and I belong to. And they have hundreds of hours of Red Hat training. So there are a lot of different vehicles, whether it's YouTube, Linux Academy, Linux Foundation, etc. There are a lot of resources out there if you want to get certified.
Perfect.
And one of the ways that I prep for is, that I would encourage anybody to do is pretty much, to set up some type of virtual lab, and have something as simple as a laptop, getting open source software virtualization such as VirtualBox, and then downloading CentOS, which is a unsupported copy of RHEL, and pretty much using that as the basis for your learning experience.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. What about commands? Are there any particular commands that you made sure you knew inside out before taking the exam? Or are there any particular commands you would recommend people know before taking this exam?
Pretty much I would become familiar with all your basic commands, your basic Linux command line commands, cat list, how to move files, how to remove files, how to look at files, how to look at change file permissions, how to change file ownerships, etc. And actually, if you go to the Red Hat site, uh, the Red Hat Certified Administrator test has evolved over the years. And if you want to look at a current set of requirements in terms of the commands and things you need to know for the certifications, it's actually listed there. So that's a good point of reference, checking out the latest requirements for the exam. And they pretty much have a pretty extensive list of the commands and things you need to know to get certified.
Great, great. Thanks. So, since this exam is hands-on, how did you navigate it? Did you how did you do it rather?
Well, I did it through the class. I mean, the class with Red Hat. But if I were taking it these days, you have the ability of setting up a variety of virtual environments using VirtualBox, maybe loading up different versions of Linux on your VMs, and pretty much going through a variety of studying. There are a wide variety. If you go to Amazon and look up Red Hat certification, there are a wide variety of manuals there that'll take you through different types of exercises that you can execute, in these virtual environments. And, that will give you the hands-on experience you need in terms of creating file systems, rebooting, etc.
Okay, perfect, perfect. So, what advice would you give someone like me who's considering taking this exam?
I would say pretty much become familiar with the current state of prerequisites for the exam, and then based upon that, I would seek out additional resources on the internet. I would definitely probably go to linuxacademy.com, which charges you a monthly subscription fee. Enroll in that. They have thousands of hours on Red Hat Linux, from beginning, to a more experienced and advanced. I would do that. I will look at a variety of the manuals that are available, both online and in paper format. I would also go to YouTube, and there's a lot of information there on becoming Red Hat certified, what the prerequisites are, things you need to do, etc. So I would take all of that. And then additionally, they're also available, some organizations offer practice tests. So at the end of all of that training, assimilating all that information, I would go through the practice exams, to consistently get, 90 to 100%. And at that time, then, you'll probably be in a good place to take the exam.
Okay. So with linuxacademy.com, are there any instructor-led trainings, or are they just videos?
They're videos. They're
Okay.
primarily videos, but they're pretty much they're in depth. They delve deeply into it. The instructors are very knowledgeable. Usually at the end of various chapters, they give you different types of exercises. So from my perspective, they give you a good background, in terms of Linux and other trainings. They offer other training there as well that are Linux related, like newer technologies such as Docker, various cloud technologies, which a lot of them, use Linux VMs, etc.
Okay, okay. All right. What about bash scripting? Is that important to know
That's a
for? Uh-huh.
necessity. That's a necessity for the exam, and that's a necessity for being a Linux administrator, engineer, architect. You have to know how to program. So
Hmm.
that's a necessity. Absolutely.
Okay. Great, great. So, any other advice that you can give or would like to give for someone that's afraid to take this exam? What would you tell them?
I would tell them to try to get as much information as possible under the belt, using both written material, online sites, YouTube, maybe even going connecting with Linux resources they maybe have on LinkedIn or friends that are in the Linux arena. And I think utilizing all those resources, I think will give them a great foundation, in terms of passing the certification.
Perfect, perfect. Do you provide any mentoring for folks interested in being Red Hat certified?
Every now and then I do, yes.
Okay, perfect, perfect. So Tyrone, what open source software should folks begin to get their feel for Red Hat at?
Okay, so there are two open source distributions among many that are exact replicants of pretty much Red Hat Linux. The chief one is CentOS, which is the exact copy of the Red Hat version that's out. So CentOS, that's CentOS. I would get a copy of that. That's freely available, whereas Red Hat charges you a subscription model. And then additionally, Fedora. So Red Hat is pretty much Fedora is a forward-looking version of Red Hat, so Fedora has a lot of advanced features, and Red Hat usually takes a branch of that and uses that for the basis of their enterprise version. So those are the two resources I would look at. CentOS primarily, if you want to go pound for pound, and then if you want to see where the future of Linux is going, Fedora.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're
So what
welcome.
do you think the future of Linux will be like in say the next 5 years?
Okay, so a lot of emerging technologies are taking place. People are starting to use a lot of virtualization software. Vagrant was one. Dockers is another one that's being widely used. And a lot of your Dockers environments are Linux based. Cloud is starting to take over, I think, probably in the next 5 to 10 years, or maybe even less than that. I think maybe 70, 80% of most of your environments will be some type of cloud, whether it's OpenStack, which is a private cloud type of solution, or whether it's a public cloud. And Amazon, I guess, is most widely known, but there are others as well, Google Cloud and Azure. So those are that's where things are going in the future in terms of Linux. The
Thank you.
virtualization. Absolutely.
Yeah. What are some websites or blogs that you read to keep you abreast on what's new with Linux?
Well, I belong to a variety of just techie websites. It's just new with technology. I mean, not just Linux specific. Linux. I'm trying to think. Linux Foundation is one. that I look at on a regular basis, Slashdot, and then there are a variety of other ones as well. If you do a Google search on Linux communities, go there. And then additionally, also Meetup.com. Meetup.com has a number of Linux groups, as well as LinkedIn as well. LinkedIn has a number of Linux groups. So those are the primary groups and websites that I go to.
Perfect, perfect. Well, thank you so much. Once again, it's been a pleasure.
You're quite welcome.
Have a great one.